Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of We Will Survive. My name is Kathy Brooks. I am a psychologist and a professor. I am a mother and a cat mother. And when I come to you in this forum, I come as a citizen of the United States, a citizen who is proud to be an American, but also sees some fault here. I see some problems that are terrible problems that have existed for a long time that need to stop. Um, and hopefully we can do it in a peaceful way. But if not, um, we'll just do it however we need to do it. But hopefully it'll be in a peaceful way. So, what I'm talking about is the police brutality that is experienced in the black community. At one time, not very long ago, people would say black people are calling the race card. Or they might say, I get pulled over by the police also. All you have to do is be respectful to them. Please excuse me. Do what they say, and everything will be fine. I never have a problem with it. And then people started to record them. And then the rest of the communities in the United States were privy to what we've always known. Okay. And for some unseen reason, the police are afraid of black people. And so I was looking at a video on YouTube the other day, and it was, thank God, this mother was phenomenal. Okay. Um, Her son, the police said that her son ran a red light, and they followed him. He was going to his parents' home, and he pulled into the driveway, and the police started to yell at him and say that you ran that red light. He gave the police his information, his license, his registration, insurance, and his parents were at home. They were in bed, but they heard all of the noise outside, so they came down to see what was going on. So apparently, initially, it was a police stop, right? And it was a female police person. Not that that makes any difference, okay? But apparently, she was fearful for her life. That's what she said. She was fearful. Now, she had her hand positioned on her gun. I'm sorry, and there was no reason. The young man was standing on in front of the house. He was just standing there. I did not hear his voice at all. Now, on the tape, his parents had come outside to see what the commotion was. They saw the policewoman with her hand on her gun. In her hand, she had all of their son's information. So the mother asked, what's going on? The police officer said that he had run a stoplight. Um, so he had the information, and so the mother said, so what's going on? I see that you have the information. Why don't you tell me what's going on? And she just stood there. Um, and she refused to go and write the ticket that she said the young man deserved. Now, the parents were not trying to get out of the ticket. They said, please go. If there's nothing else, please go and write the ticket so we can go back inside. Now, the mother was ill, but as mothers go, she was not too ill to stand there and fight for her son's life. And she made a point of saying, we are not going to stand here and allow our son to be another hashtag. And the woman just stood there, and she had a Blue Lives Matter mask on, and then she had some tattoos covered up. So you don't know exactly what those tattoos were, but they had to have been offensive in some nature for them to be covered up for her job, right? And the Blue Lives Matter mask would in some instances mean that she thought that the police, their lives didn't matter, and so she wants other people to be lenient on them, right? Except she was the only one with a gun, and she had her hand on it, and she was moving her finger kind of like this, and it appeared that she was just itching to pull the trigger at this young man who, again, was not saying anything, had complied with the officer by giving his information as requested, and he stood there waiting for the ticket. And the mother kept repeating herself over and over again, please write the ticket. So instead of writing the ticket, the officer called for backup. Now, why did she need backup? I don't know, because nobody was doing anything, but she said she was in fear of her life. So then they requested a supervisor, and she did something in her. I guess she had the call thing. I can't think of the word. But she was calling for backup, or she was calling for the supervisor, or whatever she was doing. She just kept doing this. I didn't see anything on the front of her, but she may have had her walkie-talkie in there. She would not talk to them. All she kept saying is, "He ran the red light." Um, when the mother insisted that she write the ticket, she did not move. She just stood there. And it was kind of eerie to look at it, because she was threatening, not threatened. She was threatening. And she just stood there and kind of looked at him. And the same thing that the police and other people say about black people. Like, there was a guy a couple of months ago who had a mask on, and he went into a store and he bought something, and then he was walking home, and the police pulled him over, and he could not understand, because he had earplugs on, earphones. He was listening to music as he was walking, and he didn't respond. And so they get real mad, and they start talking to people real nasty and stuff. And so well, in essence, they killed him. That's really what happened. And all he did was go to the store. Somebody called the police and said he looked suspicious. Now, he looked suspicious because he had that mask on. And as far as I know, we're supposed to wear masks, but okay, whatever. Um, he didn't bother anybody. He stood in line, waited his turn, put his item on the counter, paid for it, got it in the bag, walked home, listening to music, got killed by the police. No reason, right? So people wonder why we're antsy about the police. And so people probably looking at that video probably wonder why the parents got out of bed and came downstairs and were verbalizing, con- conversing with the police officer, because they wanted to keep their son alive. They wanted to keep him alive. And we should not have that burden. If our children are not doing anything wrong, we should not have that burden of daily fights for their lives. There are criminals outside, right? So why don't the police go after the actual criminals instead of criminalizing every black man that they see? We're not all criminals. That's just the bottom line on it. We're just not all criminals. But there are some criminals out there. So why don't you go get them and leave us alone? Leave us alone and let us be great. No? Yes. Leave us alone and let us be great. So after, I don't know, 400 years of this foolishness, of systemic racism, of just, our lives not being valued by the powers that be, and people feeling that running a light is worth somebody's life, like she had her hand on the gun. But if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't they have tasers? Don't they have tear gas? Isn't that, like, if this young man actually was resisting to give them the information or something like that, and it warranted some kind of I don't know, attention getting stunt, how about the gun should be the last resort? How about that? I've seen it where white people, and again, I don't dislike white people, so please, you know, with that. But I've seen videos where white people actually hit the police, cursed the police out, did all kinds of things, and guess what they got? I saw once when they got tear gas. I saw once when they were tased, and I saw a whole lot of times when nothing. A whole lot of times where there was nothing done. They were wrestling with them, and eventually they got their hands in handcuffs, and then they put them in the car, but nothing. Okay, so if you don't think that's traumatic, and if you don't think, like, we've been at home rather, for 6 months now, and we have that burden of the coronavirus, and now, it's flu season, so this is supposed to be the second strand that's coming our way, right? And so that's scary because most people know of somebody who has either had the virus or has unfortunately passed away from the virus. So it's a very serious thing. We've been home. Some people don't have the luxury of working from home and maintaining their income. So there's financial stressors. Excuse me. People who are business owners are feeling it very hard. People are uptight, and then we have all of these killings, and I thought to myself, with the first protest and those counter protest people who were out there, and they were the ones who were bombing things. And why do I say that? Because I actually looked at television and saw the counter protesters bombing stuff. I saw them break the glass in stores. I saw them go into the stores and not pick up one pair of sneakers or whatever, but get the boxes that several pair come in and put them in their car. And I saw this. If I saw it and I was sitting at home in Scottsdale, the police could see it as well, right? Because I was not on scene, and I saw them. I saw the Black Lives Matter people not being violent, and then I watched TV where they said they were violent, and I was watching. I was paying attention. And I thought, though, after a few days, that people would, maybe the police will lessen some of this police brutality. But oh no, they felt vindicated, and they continued to kill us. They killed a man by putting him in the street naked. So that's humiliating, yeah? Then they put a plastic bag on his head and suffocated him. Why did he deserve that? Why did he deserve to be humiliated and murdered in such a way? What had he done that made him deserve that? What have I done that made me deserve seeing so many people who are unarmed lose their lives? And yes, I'm taking it very personally because um, my head does not wrap around murder. Like, I don't understand taking someone's life. I don't understand that. And what have I done to deserve trying to figure it all out so that it makes sense? I think I've done nothing. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I told you guys I'm a proud American. But we got to get this right. We have got to get this right. The man in Washington, he calls himself the law and order president. And what that means is what he said 4 years ago to the police: don't be so nice to them. Wonder who he was talking about, them. Could it be the same people that he took ads out many years ago, um, and said that if black people, black boys, were outside in the park after dark, they had to be doing something? The same man who did not take back um, his accusations after those boys were found innocent and the true um, perpetrator had been located. No, no, that's when he said, "Well, I know they if they didn't rape her, they did something." Because what else could they be doing? Those people. What else could they be doing? You know what I like sometimes? I like to just go outside and go for a walk. And when I was younger, I mean, I was kind of in my own bubble in the house and stuff. But one of the things my friends and I would do, because we were good kids, right? So if we got to go off of the block, we just went for walks. We weren't doing anything. We were walking and talking. That's it. We did not commit any crimes. Never. My friends are male. My friends are female. My friends were black. Law-abiding citizens. Now, today in 2020, we're educated people. We are professionals, and yet we still are criminals to other people. So all of that is traumatic. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm sure. And it causes us post-traumatic stress disorder. And what I'm saying is that we are experiencing the same traumas over and over and over. Um, our parents had to tell them, their children, you watch out. Don't be out after dark. Don't do this. If the police call you, put your hands up in sight. Don't talk back to them. This, and this. Now, as far as I know, the police are human beings, right? As far as I know. And I'm never going to tell anybody to get into any kind of situation with them because they are a gang that carry and they have permission to use their guns. So I'm not going to tell anybody to just try them because it's been proven that they're willing and able to kill us. So I'm not doing that. But if I talk back to a police officer that's worth my life, are you telling me that these human beings cannot be spoken back to, even if they are wrong? There was once a situation where somebody, and this is all this summer, somebody called the police because these white boys had beat up these black boys. And when the police came, they put handcuffs on the black boys. And the people who had called the police, as well as the people who were witnesses, kept telling the police that they were arresting the wrong people. And they would not listen. Right? And they told those people to shut up and get out the way, let them do their job. But they were arresting the victims. Right? So are you telling me that you can't even correct them when they're wrong? When the perpetrators are getting away and laughing because they know that the police will victimize them every time. They will always, in the police eyes, be the victims, and the black people will always be the perpetrators, even when they're wrong. even when the police are wrong. So, as a community, post traumatic stress is a real thing, right? It is a mental health condition that is triggered by a terrifying event. And if your life flashing before your eyes is not a terrifying event, I don't know what is. I really don't. Because if you are on the ground, because they like to put us on the ground, and if they are, there was a man who, two police officers laid on top of this man and they were hitting him. It's not necessary. If I lay on top of somebody, they're not going to move. All right. So, either experiencing a trauma or witnessing it. And that's why I say, what have I done to deserve to see that? I'm home minding my business. Yeah? And you've traumatized me by being a bully, by being a gang member, by piling on top of people, by cutting off people's ability to breathe because you don't like black people, because black lives don't matter to you, because all blacks are criminals to you. What? Help me understand what I've done to deserve to see these things. Symptoms of PTSD may include flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. Now, I've seen a whole lot of events, but some of my PTSD goes back even further. And when it started to be a part of our culture, where everybody got the same information and white people started being aware that some of these things were actually things and not people just being paranoid. Okay. And that reminded me of Trayvon Martin, right? I mean, this man was a self-appointed, I don't know, vigilante. And this boy was unarmed. And this man followed him and taunted him. And the boy was kind of uncomfortable. He told his friend on the telephone that he was uncomfortable because this man was following him. He was minding his business. He had some Skittles and some iced tea, I believe. Not weapons as far as I know. I like Skittles, but I never killed anybody with some. And iced tea, I mean, that's, I don't know, is that the iced tea that I drink hasn't killed anyone yet either. So, you know the story. George Zimmerman thought, I'm going to kill this N-word. And he did. For no reason. I heard the police tell him to stop following him. But apparently that wasn't important when they went to court, right? So he got away with taking away a young boy's life because he didn't think he belonged in a particular community. He didn't belong there. And who is George Zimmerman to say who belongs where? But he got away with it. And that makes it worse, right? Because every few months or so, George Zimmerman pops back up in the media because he's done something else. And it takes you back. It takes you back. And then you remember that he had the audacity to take away a young boy's life. And he got away with it. And he gets away with everything, apparently. And so most people who go through traumatic events may have temporary difficulty adjusting and coping. We in the Black community have not had an opportunity to adjust or to cope because these things happen over and over and over again. And so it was George Zimmerman, and then it was this person, and there was that, and this cop, and that cop, and this cop, and it's just on and on. And we're saying their names, and after a while, you forget all of the names because there are so many of them. There's so many of them. They are somebody's child. They're somebody's sibling. It is somebody's parent. And they're dead because why? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. They're black. So even if someone who was black committed a crime, because I'm not going to pretend that no black people commit crimes, because that's dumb. Every race has a criminal in it, right? Has a criminal element to it. People are wrong when they think the majority of black people are criminals. People are wrong with that, but they only know what they hear about. And they only know that when they see depictions of prisons, it is overwhelmingly black. Are there people in jail who are black who have not committed a crime? Well, now that's when it comes in institutionalization, and they may not have been a criminal before, but then they learn how to be criminals. And why do they have to learn how to be criminals? Because the incarceration has caused them to need to know how to do things to protect themselves while they are incarcerated. They have to know how to. I've been told this by people that they can take a knife, not a real knife, but one of those plastic knives, and they do something in the toilet, which sounds nasty, but they do it because they want to live, and they can take the toilet water and make that knife into something that can cut somebody. Now, usually those knives don't really cut, and they're not really weapons. They're just putting butter on bread or something. But they have learned how to do that to protect themselves. So now they become institutionalized, right? Um, if you've ever spoken to someone who's been incarcerated for a period of time, they talk about things as though you understand incarceration. But they've been in that situation where it's dog eat dog, and they're just trying to maintain life, right? And this is a situation that people put them in for a couple of reasons. One, to break down the black family, and we're going to talk about that. Two, um, fear of white people fear black men. That's just something that's been going on for a while. And then also, there's a workforce that people get when they incarcerate people. I mean, we haven't forgotten about that. There's money to be made, right? Before there was slavery and you got free labor, but now you have to incarcerate people and get them jobs so that they can. They're still almost free labor. You might pay them a couple of dollars. I don't even know if it's $2 um, for making stuff or doing things. So you're still getting basically free labor. Um, so with time and good care, most people are able to get better after a traumatic situation. But if the symptoms get worse, they can last for months and even years. And they can interfere with people's day to day functioning. And that is true, right? That is true. If you are afraid, you may be don't do things, certain activities, because you don't want to be out after a certain period of time. I know I've said to you before that I have to find out, I have to be assured that my son is okay at the end of the day for me to be able to go to sleep and sleep peacefully. And there are nights when I don't go to sleep, like it's actually 3:08 a.m. right now. Um, and it is what it is. And then some of the symptoms of intrusive memories include recurrent, unwanted, and distressing memories of the trauma, that the event that you have witnessed. You are reliving the trauma, and so in my head, I can close my eyes right now and see George Floyd, because I saw that video over and over again. And I'm not mad that I saw the video. I'm mad that it happened. But you relive it. Like, I can tell you exactly what was going on in the video, because I saw it and it's imprinted in my memory. You can have upsetting dreams. Now, I might not dream specifically about Mr. Floyd, but I do sometimes have nightmares about stuff like that, because who's to say it won't happen to me? I myself have been pulled over by the police. I have been. What they do to women sometimes is almost as atrocious as what they do to men. They try to get women to have sex with them. Um, they as an exchange for not going to jail. Now, the times that the police pulled me over and offered me that deal, um, I hadn't done anything. Obviously, I'm not a criminal. I had not done anything, and actually, I was really blessed, because they threatened at one point to put me in the back of the paddy wagon, and that would have been it for me. Like, I would not have been able to handle that. But they've offered me that deal several times, and I've been blessed because they did not press it, right, and um, I did not, I didn't do it. um, and they didn't press it, and I was not arrested, and but it makes you a little fearful, right, because you know that they have the power, and they are corrupting society with their power. Now, their power is to protect and to serve. They are public servants, but instead, they're like a gang, right? And they come out and they talk to people really nastily. And I don't curse, and I don't mind people cursing around me. Well, honestly, I kind of do, but who am I to say what people can say around me? But I don't allow myself to be cursed at. I actually lost a friend because of that, because that's something that I cannot tolerate, is someone cursing at me. And somehow the police feel that they have every right to speak to you in every derogatory term that they please. Right? It's okay for them to speak to you like that, and they don't even they don't even think that you may not be the kind of person who wants to hear that kind of language. That may be offensive to you. I remember several years ago, um, I was still living in Philadelphia, and it snowed, and I lived on a small street, so that was not a street that was plowed. And instead, it had gotten colder and colder, and then the street became like a sheet of ice. And I don't like driving in those conditions, right? So that's one thing. I don't like that. So I'm coming home. I was teaching a night class, and I'm coming home, and I felt such relief when I turned into my street, because now I'm home, because I'm anxious driving on this ice, right? So the police are coming into are coming into my one way street the wrong way. And I say to myself, well, okay, I'm just going to sit here and wait for them to leave. They're not in the car at this point. I'm just going to sit here and wait, and then I'll be able to go down and park and go in the house. Then I'm tired, but I'm just going to sit here. So when they got done doing whatever it is they were doing, There was a female police officer who came and approached me and told me, yelled at me, which I don't appreciate. She yelled at me to back up so that they could drive out. Now I'm coming in the right way. They were coming in the wrong way. So I said to her, "No, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to back out." And she said, "I am the police. I am telling you that it's okay for you to back out." So I said to her, "Well, this street is a sheet of ice. I don't feel comfortable backing out onto another street, like a cross street." And she said, "Well, I'm on this, I'm doing something to help you people." Mm, that's not cool. No, that wasn't cool at all. Um, so I didn't say anything. I just said, "Well, look, I'm not doing that." And she said, she got mad. Her voice started getting louder. Um, and so my voice got a little louder too, because I'm a grown woman, and if you're not going to speak to me in a respectful way, then all bets are off. I'm just going to come at you the way that you're coming at me, until she started cursing at me, and I don't like that. I just told you guys I don't like people cursing at me. And she got mad at me, and she said that she was going to take me to jail. I said, "I'm not going to jail. Like, what am I going to jail for? Because I didn't back out?" And the only thing that saved me, and I'm aware of this, is that my neighbor came out of her house. I had been sitting in front of her house, and she was a police officer as well. And I've known her my whole life, or her whole life, because I'm older than she is. And she told her to let me go. And I heard all of this. Now, the woman didn't say anything else. She just turned around and she went back to her car, and they backed out. And then I could go ahead and park and go home. But she was going to arrest me, and she felt it was okay to curse me out. And that really made me mad. I just say that for a lot of these things that I have experienced, people should believe in God, because it's only the grace of God. It's only the grace of God. It's only because I believe in God and that I have a relationship with Him that I don't wild out like other people do. That's all I can say about that. So you can have upsetting dreams, flashbacks, severe emotional distress, or physical reactions when something reminds you of it. And when I see the police pull someone over, it causes me anxiety. It just always does. And I remember, like maybe a couple of months ago, I was on my way to work. Well, not a couple, because we've been in the house for a long time. But prior to that, I was on my way to work in the morning, and the police pulled me over, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Now they take a long time, because they take their time, and I'm going to be late for work. That's all I was thinking about, right? And then I got that little feeling in my chest, that little anxiety. And I'm like, okay, because I work in a rural area, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what are they thinking about me? Um, like, now I have to think, like, how should I present myself? How should this go? So then, I just said to myself, I know what he's pulling me over for. Well, I was speeding, so I can't pretend that I wasn't, because I was. And I'm just going to be honest with this officer, and I'm just going to speak in my normal tone, and God's grace is sufficient for me, because I did that. He actually, because there were some other things um, that he could have cited me for, and I could have gotten points. And he didn't. And he said that the reason he didn't is because I was honest, and he could tell that I was being honest. And he gave me a ticket for going five over the limit, and that was not true. So I he did me a solid. He did me a solid. And so one of my friends, he thinks that all police are bad. And I tell him that I don't believe that they're all bad. There are good ones. I know some. I have some in the family. I have some friends. I know that there are good police. And his thought process is, if you're a good police officer and you see your fellow colleague do something that is illegal and immoral, and you don't do anything about it, then you are part of the problem and not part of the solution. And I can't argue with him about that, because his experience has been that they have planted drugs in his car after they pull him over. They have done so many things. Like, he had not told me some of these things. Like, and then one day he just burst out with all of these different things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I've known this man for the majority of my life. And I know that he had never mentioned most of those things. And so this is not a person who's ever done drugs. He's never even smoked weed. So if they did plant weed in his car, so then he had to go and get a lawyer, and then he had to go to some kind of drug classes and all kinds of things that he didn't actually need, because he doesn't do drugs. He never has. But the police did that to him. And one time, he called me and he told me that had the police had they were going to take his son to court because his son was supposedly in Center City, Philadelphia. But in actuality, he was at work. So this is a police officer who had stopped his son on some other occasion and kept the information, like his tags and all of that stuff. And so they wrote a ticket for him when he was at work. So I had written a letter to the court, and he had to get a letter from his job to say that, in fact, he was at work at that time. But they were trying to run a little game on him. And that's infuriating, because this is a young man who, again, is another law abiding young black man. Um, and they wanted to just do stuff to him for no apparent reason. And then he had to go and get all of this evidence that they were wrong. Now, the possibility that they got chastised for that is very slim, slim to none. So, according to the American Psychological Association, there's this thing called learned helplessness, and it occurs when someone repeatedly faces uncontrollable, stressful situations, then does not exercise control when it becomes available. Okay, so let me repeat that. It is when someone repeatedly faces uncontrollable, stressful situations, then does not exercise control when control becomes available. So, in another of the videos, I was telling you about the Skinner box, and the rat was in the box, and he had the opportunity to. All he had to do was press the lever, and food would come out. And it was a good deal for the rat, because he was in his box. Um, and then what happened is that he would press the lever, go get the food. The food would still come out, but now the floor gave him a shock. And so they repeated that stage over and over again, where the rat learned to associate the retrieval of food with the shock, with pain. And he stopped trying to get food. Even when the presence of the shock was no longer available, he still didn't go and try to retrieve food. And food is our basic need, right? So if anybody feels learned helplessness, they will deny themselves the very basics of what they need to sustain their lives. And so learned helplessness is is a serious thing that maybe some people don't think is as serious as it is, and it could cause us our very lives. So people have learned that they are helpless in situations, right? So black people have learned a long time ago. The rest of you guys are catching up with us in that knowledge base. So we've learned a long time ago that we are helpless against the police because they are armed. Yes, they are armed and they have that power. So even when we are not doing anything wrong, they can have control over us, and we have to fear that our lives are at stake. So we're helpless in that situation. Um, have we done anything? No, but they still have the guns, right? So they're still standing there with their hand on their gun, and they're moving their fingers around to let you know they're a little trigger happy, and they'll be happy to kill you. So now you got to be fearful. And from it takes away from masculinity in the black man. Okay, because men excuse me, and some feminists may not like what I'm about to say, and I just want to say to you to please, I'm a feminist as well, but just bear with me. um, Men are supposed to protect and provide, right? So if they are not able excuse me, to protect, it takes away, it dwindles down their masculinity. Now, it's not that we as women feel that they are no longer masculine. It's not that we feel that they are no longer able to provide or protect. It is because they feel that. And they feel that because they fear the police. And I've watched so many videos this year where the black man was not doing anything and he had to say to the police, I am afraid. And that chips away at that masculinity, of that, that self-efficacy that a man feels when he can protect women and children. And they take that away. And then in the worst case scenario, they take it away by taking them to, well, I'd rather them taken in jail than to kill them. But in a really wonderful world, they wouldn't do either. Okay. But if you take them away, then you chip away at the black family, right? So if I take you back to the scenario where the young man was supposed to have run a red light, um, and that police officer was with her hand on her gun and twitching those fingers, she could have potentially taken away his ability. He's 19, this young man. So his ability to get a family of his own, right? And then to provide for them and to protect them. Because she was wanting to kill him, is my opinion. She was wanting to kill him. So she wasn't fearing for her life because he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't even saying anything. She just wanted to kill him and take away his future, right? Take away his ability to get married, to have children, to provide and to protect his family. This is a young man at 19. I believe I heard his mother say he was getting a master's degree at the age of 19. Yeah, it's pretty good, right? She wanted to kill him, take away all that potential because she saw some brown skin. Brown skin must be good. It must be. Because I see people all the time at the beach, in the backyard. I even saw someone, I went to have a procedure done not too long ago, and I saw a woman on her front lawn laying out, getting some sun so she could get some brown skin. So brown skin must be good, unless it's, I don't know. Is it only bad when you're born with brown skin? Does it stop being bad when you get it artificially? So I know the man in the White House, he's orange, but because it's not real brown skin, he wasn't born with it. But he obviously is trying to do something with that skin because he obviously like around his eyes is white, and then the rest of him is that orangish brown color. And so, what I think he's trying to do is, I think he's getting a suntan from one of those tanning beds, and he's putting the glasses over his eyes. So, so I think while he doesn't care about the plight of black people, he's recently said that he's not even trying to understand it. And when his a fellow white man who was privileged, who was born into privilege, asked him about it, he said that he was drinking the Kool-Aid, trying to understand what's going on with black people. So the president could care less what our situation is. So to him, we're nothing. You know, in his rallies, he always has one, and he points to him and says, "Look at my African American." And you know, sometimes when people go to the zoo, they see animals and they say, "Look at that orangutan." And that's what he reminds me of. He's just pointing out something that's there for his pleasure. My African American. What the heck is that? I'm not going to get into him because he just infuriates me. Once a person has the experience of learned helplessness, they discover that they cannot control events around them. They lose motivation. People have wondered why people, are poor and don't try to get education or, get a better job and things like that. And it's because they have lost motivation. Even if an opportunity arises that allows that person to alter their circumstances, they do not take action. And there's a young man that I'm aware of, and I'm going to be very careful because I do not want him or anyone who knows him to know that I'm talking about him, because I'm not talking about him because I'm making fun of him. I'm talking about him because he fits in this scenario. This young man had the opportunity to go to college for free, and he kind of didn't care about that. And someone called him and gave him a job. Like, how does that happen? And he just really didn't care about that either. And then, his friends around him were upwardly mobile. Like, these are people who are moving and shaking. And he just was the one who didn't take action. He's just kind of existing, right? It's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's the result of experiences that has taught him that it doesn't even matter. So why do it? Individuals who experience learned helplessness are often less able to make decisions. And so I will tell you that, um, no, I know that people will be able to recognize him. So I'm not going to talk about him because I like this young man. I am not making fun of him. I'm just choosing my words carefully, um, so that he is not identifiable. But it causes people an increased risk of having clinical depression, because you still want stuff, right? You still, maybe you look at television and you see things that appeal to you. You still want things, but you cannot even fathom going out and getting them. You think, you believe, you are sure that people are going to stop you from getting what you want. So why try? It's kind of like the example I gave on another video, where I was telling my friend that I wanted a particular type of house, and I showed him a depiction of it on my phone, and he said, "You can't have that kind of house. Be, what did he say? Be satisfied." Well, if you know me, you know that I'm not the kind of person to be satisfied. Like, I have the ability to work and get what I want, right? So that's what I am doing. So there was a time when I was in my 30s that my doctor told me that he wanted me to go out on disability. I did have a lot, and I still have those ailments. And people think that I don't because I keep doing stuff. But I broke my back when I was younger, and that has not healed. And so I have a hard time walking. And because the job that I had at the time was a physical job, I was on my feet all the time. I was working in a psychiatric hospital, and they don't have time for you if you, there's no, like, you have to either work or go home, but you can't do both. And so I didn't want to, I think I was like 32, 31 or 32. I didn't want to sit home um, for the rest of my life. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to show my son that, that when something gets hard, you just give up. I didn't want to do that. And so I was home for about a year, maybe a year and a half. And I was praying, because I was getting sicker and sicker. It was like some other stuff on top of the back situation. And I was getting sicker and sicker, and the doctors didn't know what was going on with me. And I was a little scared because my son, he was young. He was really young. Like, um, he was either in kindergarten or first grade, so he was young, and I love him. If you know me, and even if you don't know me, I love that little boy, and I always have, and I want only good things for him. And I knew that I needed to get up, and luckily, um, I had all of those good people pouring in all of that that love, all of the positivity was poured into me so that I believed I could do stuff. Now, when I'm on campus, right, when I am on campus, people notice that I walk super slow, And oh my gosh, when I have to walk like from one building to another, oh my gosh, I mean, it is so stressful to me because it hurts so much. And I walk so slow, and I have to make jokes about it when people pass me because um, it's slow. And it's not the way I see myself in my mind's eye, and I don't want to present myself like that because it almost makes people think I'm lazy, I'm tired, like I'm just. But what I'm actually doing is trying to walk. That's what I'm really doing. Um, and that's a whole different type of trauma that I experience. But um, something internal, something innate has to be there to keep you moving forward, right? And I think that that thing should be for our community. Um, I think that we need to hear that voice inside of us that says that we are worth something, that our lives do matter, that we can achieve things. And the more you see people, I mean, all black people don't come from the ghetto. I mean, when I hear people talk about reparations and things, I hear them say, oh, maybe not money, but we'll do prison reform or educational enhancement or something like that. And it makes me think that they think all of us are in jail and uneducated. No, no. I know very few black people who are uneducated. I know 1.5 persons who are incarcerated. Um, and I'm not even going to get into how one of them is a half a person. Um, but he is. Excuse me. Um, So there are some key features to learned helplessness, and one is becoming passive in the face of trauma. So if you see something happening, you retreat immediately because you've been traumatized before. You have difficulty learning that your responses can control your trauma. That means you have a difficult time believing that that voice inside that says you can is a real thing, right? And so that's what we really need. We need to have that voice, and we need to believe what the voice is telling us, the positive part of the voice. And learned helplessness can increase in stress levels. And that's really what it's doing. That's why people are protesting. That's why people are shouting. That's why people are doing that. And we know that there are counter protest people in the midst because one of them put on blackface and shot somebody. Yes, counter protest people. There was one who I don't remember these people's names, so please forgive me. But there was one who was 17 years old, an underage person, whose mother drove him to a protest and let him out. And he had a rifle strapped to him, and he walked amongst the people, and then he shot a few people, and then the people who were around who witnessed it told the police, who did not respond to it and allowed that boy to walk back. I have to believe that his mother picked him up because his mother brought him across state lines and dropped him off, so she must have picked him up as well. So they allowed him to go home, even though the police were right there and could have and should have arrested him. They allowed him to go home, have a good night's sleep in his bed, and then he turned himself in. Now he got parole or whatever it is. I don't really know the right terms for it, but he got to go home, and they gave him a court date. Now this boy, first of all, should not have gotten to go home. He killed people. He would have crossed state lines with a rifle and killed people and then returned to the state of his origin. But when he got his court date, he didn't show up. And so what did the judge do? Gave him an extra month to come in. And are you going to tell me that you don't understand why we're saying Black Lives Matter? Are you going to tell me that it's a racist statement? When this young boy walked past the police after killing people and was not arrested because he killed some black people, and he went home and went to bed, and he's still free today because he has an extra month to get it together. He has been looked upon as being a hero because he shot some Black Lives Matter protesters who were not violent. Because the police don't understand why we say Black Lives Matter, because they have gotten so used to brutalizing the black community that they don't even understand why we complain about it. Why do we think we should have rights? Who do we think we are? And so they are offended by the term Black Lives Matter. And they say, oh, wait a minute, Blue Lives Matter. Yeah. But blue lives have always mattered, because one thing I know for sure and certain, if someone dies who is black at the hands of anybody, they may investigate it and they may arrest someone. But one thing for sure and certain, if a police officer is killed, every police officer in that city is going to be looking for the perpetrator. They are going to find the perpetrator. They are going to arrest the perpetrator, and it will not take a long time. I've seen that over and over and over again. So we know Blue Lives Matter, especially to you, because somehow you're able to find the perpetrator really, really quick when it's one of yours. But when it's one of ours, you may or may not. I mean, obviously, you let that young boy go at home. So you don't try to investigate. So we know Blue Lives Matter. We know White Lives Matter. We've always known that. Yeah. So if you commit a crime against a white person, we know that you're going to be prosecuted. It's just black lives that don't seem to matter. And we want you to take us seriously. We want you to think of us as human beings. We want you to know that when you kill us, you don't just kill us. You kill a family. You negatively affect a family. You negatively affect our friends. We care about our people just like everyone else. So we want you to know that our lives matter. If someone were to kill me right now, God forbid, it would affect a number of people. I have a few friends, but they are good friends. And I believe they will be upset. I have a sibling, and I believe she would be upset. I have a wonderful family, and I believe they don't want me to die either. But most importantly, I have a child, and it would devastate him if someone were to kill me. And make no mistake about it, I could not function properly if someone were to do something to my son. So, yeah, we're human beings. We bleed everything. We have saliva. We go to the bathroom. We do all of the things that all other animals do. We we matter. So once we convince you, then it's time to convince ourselves. And so until next time, have a blessed day. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and join me back next time. I will regularly come on Facebook Live on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, and that's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining me. Please come back. Please make comments so that I can see them and relate them to other people. Please just come back. Thank you.